Welcome back to the Big Splash. This is day 3. We had a great 2 days last week, and we're rounding things out with Canvas training today, and our customer success manager from Zoom, Matt Suppich, who's a senior team lead with Zoom. So the session is going to be moderated by Kyle Page. Kyle's the Director of Technology Services within Provost Information Technology Office at Texas A&M. And Kyle is also the Zoom account administrator for A&M. So he does quite a bit in terms of managing feature updates and ensuring that we understand what the impacts are as we roll those out across Texas A&M. Matt's been a part of our implementation team at A&M for the last, let's say, 18 months or so since we launched Zoom. So he's been a great partner, and he's even made a trip to College Station in May of 2019 for the Transformational Teaching and Learning Conference. Matt is an experienced IT professional with a demonstrated history of solving problems and finding best practices for his clients. So we've been really fortunate to have the opportunity to work with Matt. He is going to present, and then we'll have some time for Q&A, which Kyle will lead us through. This session will be recorded, and then we will post a link on the Office for Academic Innovation YouTube channel within the next couple of days or so. And then if you'd like to join the conversation during the session, we will be using the Twitter hashtag #TAMU_BigSplash, or you can email academicinnovation@TAMU.EDU and submit your questions that way live during the session. If we don't get to your questions today, we will make sure we do in the coming days. So with that, Matt, we will turn things over to you.
Thanks, Jocelyn. Appreciate the kind words and introduction there. And yes, I've been with Zoom about 3.5 years now and been working with you and others on campus for, about 18 months now. That's about right. So happy to be with you all today on what I'm sure is a busy Friday. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen momentarily. I have about a 15-slide presentation, and I think we'll round things out with some questions, as Jocelyn mentioned. So feel free to get those in, and I think we've had some already come in today. So should be a great session. So quick look at our agenda. We're going to take a look at some overall campus and trends and metrics, kind of where we were at the beginning of this year. And you can imagine a lot's changed about how you're leveraging Zoom and now Canvas. And trying to just look at those trends and metrics and such. We're going to take a look at the Zoom past releases, kind of get you up to speed on what's happened, again, this calendar year. Talk about some more recent things that are going to be hopefully valuable for leveraging Zoom with teaching and learning and standard meetings in the coming days. And then what's next from there in terms of product enhancements, roadmaps, and those sorts of things that are going to be really specific to what you may be looking for or looking to be added to the platform of Zoom as it integrates with Canvas as well. So we'll touch on a little of that, although me being a Zoom representative will be pretty heavy on the Zoom side of things here today. So first, just to give you an idea of where we were and where we're going potentially with Zoom, I just want to pull a few charts here. And I know this might not be the most exciting thing, but just in terms of overall usage, we obviously saw a huge spike across the Zoom platform, but specifically at Texas A&M, in March, April, and May. You can see just with the graph there in terms of the two graphs actually, for the number of hosted meetings, so licensed users within the TAMU instance, spiked dramatically. We were building slowly coming out of 2019 and early in 2020 there, as you can see. But once March and April hit, obviously things changed with all of our situations, both personally and professionally with schooling and such, that, there's a greater need on Zoom, and we can see that represented here. So to date, and as of last night, there were over 827,000 total meetings that were hosted by members of your community. And looking at just over 117,000 on the kind of monthly rolling average, and a little bit skewed here there with the early usage stats in the beginning of the year, and also we're only about halfway through the month of August, but you can see those numbers are creeping up there, and I assume they'll stay pretty high with the current climate that's out there. In terms of total meeting minutes, the way we calculate those, that's the number of participants in your meeting times the length of the meeting in minutes. So if there are 3 people in an hour-long meeting, that would be 180 total meeting minutes. So we were actually approaching over 91 million meeting minutes for the entire school in April, and we can see the total there for all of 2020. So obviously the big spike was in April as everyone shifted from traditional learning methods to remote and home learning. And then with the academic calendar, things have shifted a bit, but it looks like those numbers are creeping up accordingly. In terms of connecting, where people are connecting from, obviously far and away, the US is going to be the biggest leader in terms of where your colleagues and students and other members of your community are joining from. But I actually pulled some numbers, and you've had meeting participants from over 175 countries across the globe. The map here, with the shades and stuff, actually isn't quite accurate, because I did take out a few of countries that did just have a few participants. But overall, in terms of the total number, is 175. Again, out of about 195, I think, total countries in the world, minus a few that Zoom cannot do business in for governmental reasons. Top locations, obviously the US there, Qatar and India, Mexico, China, Canada, and South Korea kind of rounded up the top handful. So I'm guessing their presence there in satellite campuses and other arrangements. But you can see just the vast area that people are connecting from. That's what really makes, I think, Zoom and online education, at least this point, doable, because we can connect from anywhere, and it seems to be at least working here for us in the meantime and across the globe as well. In terms of participation trends for your meetings to date, so pull these again from the beginning of the year, and this is about how the meetings are being ran. You can see I'm on video, you're obviously hearing me on audio. I know that's not the case for everybody in terms of comfort level, maybe what they have available in terms of cameras, etc. But the vast majority of meetings that are taking place are using both audio and video for the participants. We like to see those numbers and those graphs about even, and that was the case, especially as usage changed in March and April and beyond. So we're starting to see again those numbers creep up as we're getting closer to the start of the academic calendar. But it's really great to see that video usage is high. Obviously, some of the changes with COVID and people shifting to home and remote work and learning has necessitated that, and wanting to see people on video, both for engagement and other reasons. But to see these stats so high is encouraging and a testament to you all utilizing the tool in effective ways. Sharing, would like to see those numbers a bit higher, but I realize that may be just a small subset of people, especially instructors or TAs teaching courses where students may be just in listen and view only mode, or asking questions or participating in conversations and discussions as needed. But for the most part, we're seeing great adoption in terms of not only the product and the platform overall, but also using the tools that are there, especially being on video, which is I think really key nowadays. So in terms of some Zoom updates, we're going to kind of circle back to that beginning of the calendar year here, and not go back too far. We've all been through a lot this year, and especially at Zoom here, we've had quite a few updates, especially with the uptick of usage due to COVID, and we're just kind of that kind of company that's innovating and releasing quite a few features. So we're going to look back, talk about what's present, and then actually look ahead for what's forward, as I know we've had a lot of questions and feature requests coming in since everyone is using the product heavily now. So going back to Q1 of 2020, we did have a variety of features roll out, just kind of at a glance here. We did add the security tab as everyone was shifting to remote learning and trying to manage classes and large meetings in different ways and seeing different challenges there. We did consolidate a lot of the features that were scattered throughout the platform in the meeting experience, such as being able to determine who can share content, chat, possibly rename themselves, or even annotate on the screen, one of those great engagement tools. So you actually, as a meeting host, have all those condensed into one setting or one tab within the security settings. And you can even manage to lock the meeting or leverage our waiting room feature, which is very popular among a lot of users. For the LTI specifically, and this informs Canvas, we did add support for both polls and polling results. So being able to tie that valuable engagement feature not only into standard meetings, which was available before, but support it through LTI. We actually just added a fairly recent update as well to be able to upload poll questions via an import, a CSV file, so you can actually build those questions and answers out to be able to leverage the tool in an easier fashion through the LTI interface. We did add video virtual background, so I have just a static background behind me today. I'm not in San Francisco. I'm actually in my home in Kansas City. But we did add a video virtual background feature if your processor can support it to have some movement and life behind you. I'm a traditionalist. I'm just sticking with the standard background today, but it works well and it's something that people are quite excited about. Tying in with the security tab, the first one we talked about here on the screen, the report a user option was also available. So unfortunately, we did have some folks that were possibly being disruptive, unruly, in the wrong place, and wanted to get them out of the meeting. So aside from removing them or even locking the meeting, we do have the ability now within the interface to report a user directly to Zoom to investigate any abuse on the platform or anything of the sort. So that does allow you to create essentially a ticket with our trust and safety team who can look in to the matter, and you can give feedback and information on why you're reporting that user, and then we can take appropriate measures if necessary. And last on this slide here, we did have a rather large client release, a 5.0 client release. You may have heard about this from internal communications as I was working with Kyle and others to get the word out here. But we did have a mandatory update at the end of May for 5.0 to support a variety of features, including an upgraded level of encryption for more secure meetings. So that happened at the end of May with our 5.0 release. Other items that have happened previous to really today, but in Q1 and early in Q2, we did add a language interpretation feature. So you're obviously hearing me in English today, but if we did have some need for a bilingual audio feed, Zoom does now support a language interpretation option where you can essentially have a secondary audio feed and someone speaking in a different language, such as Spanish or French or something else, and allow people to choose the language audio stream of their choice. So think of the United Nations when you have a lot of people coming together and not speaking a common language. They will actually have an earpiece in and hearing an interpreter. Same type of thing, but we're allowing you to accomplish that through the Zoom interface. We're not going to translate what you're saying. That's maybe down the road a little bit to do some live translation from English to another language. But this is an actual person speaking in a specific language. I think the volume is about 80-20 in terms of 80% of the language of their choice, and then 20% of the original speaker, so they can hear tone and impact and those sorts of things in the person's voice. We did add a meeting reactions option. So we've had some nonverbals in the product, ability to raise hand, thumbs up, etc. But the meeting reactions options allow that to be displayed more prominently in the meeting interface. And we'll talk about those. Actually, we just had an update here last week, actually. I did mention the video background earlier, so doubled up there. And then we did have an updated host leave flow. So before you are able to leave the meeting as the host, you do have to either choose to end the meeting for everyone or select another host to carry out your host responsibilities before you're allowed to leave. Previously, you could leave a meeting unattended as the host, but we did change things earlier this year to ask that you either leave the meeting and end it for all or pass those host responsibilities to someone else before leaving the meeting. And jumping ahead now in time here to a most recent release on August 4th. So a few things that we're really excited about. First, the ability to share PowerPoint using a virtual background. So you're obviously seeing me as a virtual background user here with my Golden Gate Bridge behind me. We actually now have the ability to share a PowerPoint. So think of your favorite weathercaster on the local news. They're pointing to the map and talking about the highs and lows and precipitation that may be on the way. Same type of thing here. You're actually going to be overlaid on top of a PowerPoint. And I'm actually going to demo that here in just a second. Next up, we do have an appearance adjustment option. So we've had a touch up my appearance feature for a while to kind of smooth out those fine lines and wrinkles, kind of a soft focus. We've actually gone one step farther to give you the ability to adjust that feature to make it more or less prevalent, depending on what you want. It's going to adjust the softness of the filter. And also given the ability to use video filters. And these are maybe less academic and may even be disabled on your account, but think of your favorite app for video or social media where you can put different filters on. We actually did add that to the platform recently. So while you may not use that or your son or daughter may, same type of thing here where you can add specific video filters. We did add additional reactions. So aside the clapping and the thumbs up and thumbs down, we'll get into some of those more in just a minute. But basically different ways to do those nonverbals to get some different engagement from your students or others in the meeting as well. And then last but not least, we did just have an update in terms of a small thing, but maybe somewhat confusing thing. We have changed some wording on the platform and in our documentation. Everyone is familiar with a password. Our meeting had a password today for us presenting, just for some extra security. But it's actually now called passcode. I actually need to correct myself there. Passcodes are the new term here, as the connotation is passcodes are meant to be shared, where passwords are specific and personal to you. So passcodes, while attached to a meeting for extra security, have a different wording now, or different phrasing, if you will, from passwords to passcodes. The actual functionality has not changed. We're just updating that in the documentation. So if you see passcodes, that was formerly passwords, to add more security to your meeting and have that available for you. So here's the breakdown on the sharing PowerPoint via virtual background. So again, this is something that just came out. It is still in beta, but it's for general release. So if you're on the most up-to-date version of our desktop client, which is 5.2, I believe, you'll have the ability to go into the advanced section and choose the share PowerPoint as virtual background option. And essentially what this allows you to do is share obviously that content, that PowerPoint, and then have your video overlaid on top of it. And you do have some different features and options to manage your video feed in terms of resizing, repositioning it throughout the screen, and a variety of other features. And I'll demo that here again in just a few seconds. One thing to consider, I believe it is PowerPoint and Keynote specific. So if you're using the Apple version of PowerPoint on your Mac, those are the only two options that I believe we're supporting right now. So Google Slides is not an option at this point. And what happens when you do actually leverage this feature, it will take a PowerPoint that you select after choosing to share it and actually change the format a bit so it is easier to leverage as a background. So there is a bit of a quick conversion process to allow that to happen. And really some great use cases there, as you can see on the screen, just kind of a more immersive and richer experience to be able to get the best of both worlds, to really highlight your content, but also still be able to be seen on the screen. As you can see me now, but it's just a bit different, and I'm actually gonna show you what that's like right now. So just give me a second to switch over there, and we'll have to kind of click through the slides again to get back to where we were, but we'll just do that here. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up our content. Just switching over the conversion. And now you see we started at the beginning, so I'm going to click through again, but you can obviously see me in the lower right quadrant of your screen. So it's a bit interesting. It takes a bit to get used to there, but it definitely is a different way to kind of showcase your presentation and really leverage Zoom to be still on video, as again, many of you have been using based on the metrics we saw earlier. So I'm going to actually click forward here to our specific slide that we were on. Here we are. So we can see the mock-up obviously just above where you can see my head now, but I can actually go ahead and change and resize my video if I want. So not to startle anyone, but I can make myself bigger on the screen. I can actually relocate myself as well. So we'll definitely make that a bit smaller here, but you do have the ability to kind of dynamically move. Maybe your slide content's going to change, you don't want to overlap with some important information, or you just want to go from a better angle than the default would be, I think, in the lower right quadrant. So you have the ability to manage that appropriately. I can even flip between this and the previous view you saw as well. So if we want to have just the standard overlay in the Zoom window and not have the virtual background that is just the white screen behind me with the slide, we certainly can do that as well. So just hang out here and we'll just move forward with the other features that we're going to cover. Talked about this one a little bit, appearance adjustment. So we have the ability to manage the touch up my appearance option and adjust for low light situations. So trying to help people working from home and in different locations than maybe they're used to meeting or learning or teaching. So we've given those options to have a more granular control of lighting and the touch up my appearance feature to have a better video experience. Being on video does take a bit to get used to. I know there's possibly some trepidation or a learning curve to be and stay on video. So we're trying to allow you to make yourself look as best as possible and most presentable in the most presentable way. And we realize a lot of environments aren't conducive to that right now with different lighting. Maybe being in non-traditional locations as we're all trying to make best of interesting situations if you are at home at this point. And then additional reactions. So these are some of the engagement tools that you may want to leverage in some of your meetings and classes. So we actually had the first two on the left side, the clap hands and the thumbs up previously, but we do have some others as well. Some of these may or may not be as useful to you, but have the ability to give more options to express reactions, help you gain feedback from the people that you're presenting to, and for them to give feedback to you, obviously, as well. So we've got the 5 there, and they'll be able to be clearly seen. They actually appear within the Zoom window here. So if I actually do one real quick, I'm going to clap. It's actually in my Zoom window off screen right now. Next up, some additional features, and this is really driving from a few different angles, but really trying to gain some equity in the virtual meeting and learning space. So talked about this a few times with us kind of being in odd situations, odd locations, and not really conducive to teaching, learning, being on video conferencing, as opposed to being in your office or classroom or whatever the case may be. We're actually hearing this a lot from teachers being concerned about their students and in different home situations and what that looks like. So we've actually done some things in our newest releases to give some of these features a larger adoption rate by lowering and tweaking some of the specs to run virtual background, have some different options for noise suppression and other features as well. So the most recent release, I believe, on August 4th, we did have some additional processors that are now included on the lower end to support virtual backgrounds and also the gallery view of up to 49 people. Our default is 25 or a 5x5 grid on the screen, but actually 49 is the max at this point. And to date, only newer kind of higher end computers with decent processors, we're getting up to 49 people, 7x7 view. So we've actually kind of lowered the threshold and the specs on that as we've been able to make some tweaks in the hardware, or actually in the software rather, to allow for more people to join in and leverage that feature if they wish. Obviously, we're under some constraints there. We can't make this available to all. There are some different specs that we do have to hit, but we have the ability to leverage those options now. And again, from an equity standpoint, some folks may be not wanting to share their background for a variety of reasons, and the virtual background is going to be there as well to kind of mask and block out what may be behind them, just to make them more comfortable in class. Again, having that equitable option within the learning environment. And finally, improve noise suppression. This one's good for me. I've got a large dog who likes to bark at the worst times. I'm probably jinxing myself there, and he'll probably start chiming in any minute here. But this allows you to block out and actually have some granular control on the noise suppression behind you. So we've had that built into the software already, but we've actually kind of raised the level of that and giving you granular control to block those out, whether it's echo or noise cancellation. You have improved options to do that. To make the meeting experience really more enjoyable for the people you're meeting with. If you're hearing the sounds there, maybe you're in control or not, but it could be a distraction to others. So we're going to try to improve the audio experience for everyone. So what's next? We talked about everything up to this point. In terms of the coming months, especially in August and September, we've got some really great things coming. And this folds into some of the questions that we've already got, and we'll drill down a bit more here in just a bit. First, enhanced nonverbal feedback. So we've had those emotes and emoji options to put in the window, whether it was the thumbs up, clapping, heart, etc. That we've now expanded. We're actually going to change and update the raised hand feature as well to make that more prominent. If any of you have taught on Zoom previously and done the raise hand option or asked students to engage and raise their hand, it's actually not in the meeting interface. And a lot of the feedback we got this spring and even earlier was that we need to make that more accessible and more easy to manage and view. So that's where we're going with that. So you will see an update with that later this year. And then we have the ability to spotlight a video right now. So you're seeing me on screen, I'm talking, that's leveraging what we call our active speaker view. But let's say you wanted to see someone else, or we were having a panel, but we wanted to keep it on one person. I have the ability to spotlight one person in the meeting right now, so you can see that person. I'm informing your view. We're actually going to raise that to, I believe, 5 people and possibly up to 9. So you can have essentially a panel going on and control the view of what others are seeing. So it's not going to bounce back and forth based on who's speaking, although that's a great option, something you can still leverage as our default audio option. It's going to allow you to really inform the view of your other meeting attendees or your students in class. On the flip side, you can pin up to 9 videos with this upcoming release in September. Pinning is informing your view. Currently, we have one view that allows for pinning a single person. So I can decide that I want to focus in on one person, and we're going to be able to expand that to up to 9 people and really have a dynamic view there. So that's going to be a great option. And I actually want to circle back previously on the spotlight option. The one really overarching feature request for this one actually came through ASL interpretation, American Sign Language, and being able to spotlight multiple people on the screen to help students who are in need of American Sign Language to leverage that with the person signing, an interpreter, and others in the meeting as well. So that was one of the driving factors behind that second option. Language interpretation customization. I talked about the language interpretation option in the beginning. We're only supporting a handful of countries, and those have steadily grown. I think we're up to 9 or 10. We're actually going to allow you to customize that and input specific languages. It's tough to cover every single language that's available, so we're going to allow you to do that for some of the less popular or less spoken languages other than your standard French, Spanish, English, etc. If you use gallery view, we're going to have an option to drag and drop and inform the specific layout on the screen. So to date, if we're in gallery view and you're seeing everyone on the screen, that's kind of that Brady Bunch or game show view where everybody's in the grid. What I see on my gallery view may be different from Kyle's or Jocelyn's or others' view. That's just the way the product was, but we're actually giving you the ability to actually inform your view and drag and drop and essentially create a static seating chart, if you will. We'll have some breakout room enhancements. That's been, I think, the most popular feature that's come through. Everybody's been leveraging breakout rooms, especially for really large sessions and wanting to drill down into smaller discussion groups or more manageable numbers of people. The breakout rooms have been a really popular tool. We've heard loud and clear a lot of the suggestions that people have had for those, whether it's making the numbers larger in terms of who you can have in the breakout rooms, who you can preload into the breakout rooms, the numbers overall. And a few other things that we're working on is the ability, and this hopefully will drive engagement as well, to self-select breakout rooms. So I can create breakout rooms and allow people to join and leave breakout rooms as needed. So there's a lot of different options and applications for that. Some may be academic, some may be not, but that will be something that's coming later this year. Same on the waiting room enhancement side. So we are pushing waiting room and ability to manage the meeting in a safe way, and waiting room does that. It allows you to have people join a waiting room before joining the main meeting. We're making it easier to manage that. So whether it is being able to admit multiple people at the same time, or having enhanced notifications on the screen. The one thing we got a lot of feedback on was it's tough to know who's in my waiting room when I'm trying to teach a class or multitask or run a meeting. So we've actually made those enhancements to the notifications much more clear, and they're actually an overlay on the top of the screen now, so I can actually click instead of having to go into another menu to do that. And last but not least, this isn't a software update, this is a hardware update. We did roll out or announce a new product, and it actually is dropping in a few days here, called Zoom for Home. This is actually an all-in-one touchscreen piece of hardware that's going to be available from one of our partners called D10. It's got an integrated microphone, speaker, and camera built in, and it's like a 27-inch touchscreen that can sit on your desk. You can annotate, you can start instant meetings, you can join regular meetings, and do a variety of other things, and even allow it to be used as a secondary monitor when you're not in a Zoom meeting. So something that you may be hearing more about. It does, I think, cost $500 to $600, but you know, when you do have all those pieces of hardware combined into one, that may be a worthwhile investment for some of you out there. A few other things we'll touch on before we jump into some questions. Some of you may be aware of our Zoomtopia conference. That's our annual user conference. Typically, this is in person, and we do also stream it live. But the way things are going this year, we're actually going fully virtual. And we definitely invite everyone to check that out. You can go to zoomtopia.com and learn more about the platform, the product. Here's some great speakers and breakouts. And we've actually had some representatives of Texas A&M join in past years. And that may be the case for this year again. One thing I will draw your attention to, and hopefully some of you who've been using Zoom, is I'll change my view here, or your view of me. We are doing an innovation awards. So if anybody's been doing innovative or cool use cases with Zoom, we definitely recommend you checking that out. We're actually doing a variety of awards, and education is one of our big focuses here at Zoom, and so definitely something we want to highlight, as there have been a lot of innovation just with the jump in usage on the platform, but also out of necessity as well, with all of us being in unique situations over the past few months. So definitely invite you to take a look not only at the conference overall, that's going to be, again, fully virtual, we'll be streaming everything, but also if you are interested in submitting for the Innovation Awards, we'd be happy to have you do so. And I'll be getting more information to the folks on the call here today to make sure that information and links are available for that. So with that, I just want to say thank you. I know we're about 30 minutes in. We got some questions. I see Kyle popping on there. So go ahead and stop my screen share, and we'll kind of dive into those. I'm sure they've been coming through.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt, for that information. Hopefully that was very informal and good stuff for you guys that are watching right now. So we have had a few questions come in. Matt, I'm going to just go ahead and rattle some off to you. We'll start off with the first one, which is what product enhancements specific to higher education have been suggested from a Research One institution, and have any of those been implemented?
Yeah, great question, Kyle. And a lot of the items that I talked about on one of the last slides in terms of the breakout room enhancements and such have come from those research institutions over the past few months. Breakout rooms have really been top billing, and I kind of rattled off a few of those, whether it's enhancing the number of people who can join, the number of breakouts you can have in a session, to how you can manage those, have been quite popular. And we're going to have some implementation of those within the next 30 to 45 days. So we're not quite there, but we will have those here quite soon. Secondarily on that list, co-host capabilities have been a big one with basically all education customers, and the ability to have a kind of balancing of the host and co-host permissions, especially teaching large sections of classes over Zoom, or people not being as familiar with the platform. Having a co-host is great. It's one of my best practices when I do training. It's always great to have that support, have that moderator, whatever the case may be, and really leveling the playing field of the permissions there and giving the co-host more responsibilities, especially in managing the meeting and also managing breakout rooms. It kind of ties back to that first one as well. A few others that have come to the forefront. One I actually didn't talk about today, but one that came up, especially with music education. I know that's not research specific, but music and audio is really, really popular, and getting really good audio quality. Right now we do essentially broadcast in mono. That's our default audio, and you can enable stereo potentially. We are going to essentially have a professional audio mode. While the big applications are in kind of music education and such, I'm guessing there's some research applications there as well to essentially have high quality Spotify style streaming audio quality in your meeting. I believe up to 192 kilobytes, kilohertz. I confuse those two, but that'll be what we're at there. You're muted there, Kyle.
Yeah, the trouble of that. So next question, what can we expect in regards to improved student engagement features in the future? Which I know you've mentioned a few with the raising hands, but are there others that the faculty may be interested in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we did touch on a few of those themes throughout with the nonverbals, whether it was the reactions in the meeting and kind of getting more than the thumbs up, or the raised hand. Those are the big ones. But enhancing those has been a big one, and being able to make those more front and center, whether it's for the host or the co-host. And then a few of the other ones I did kind of talk about as well, with the ability to kind of spotlight and pin and really draw attention to some of those additional folks in the meeting who you want to highlight if you're having a conversation or a panel, and want to keep everybody engaged on those presenters. That's something we're strongly looking into. And then this is partial meeting and partial out of it. We're looking into a collaboration hub concept where in the meeting we'll be able to manage chat and sharing file potentially if that's available in your ecosystem, but have that kind of outside the meeting and really having kind of a formalized informal experience, if that makes sense, where if you are on campus and you're in class, you may go to your study group after class and rehash things. So while that's not directly in the meeting, we're trying to really bridge all those, whether it's what you see in the meeting itself, maybe the recording, the chat transcript, all those things we're trying to bring together.
Okay. So the next two questions have to do with some of the larger courses that we teach. So first one, with these large enrollment courses, do you have any suggestions for how to improve the student engagement, again, when we're talking 600, 700, 800 students or more?
Yeah, I feel like I need to start on like a master's program for theory and teaching and stuff. I feel like I've been getting more and more of these questions. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting study in how to manage not only online education but online education at scale, as I think obviously where this is going. It comes back to a lot of the things that we've already talked about and getting creative in your meetings. First, mastering the meeting itself and the management of that. So, knowing your go-to tools, your screen sharing, managing audio and video appropriately, using video, first of all, I think that's going to help drive engagement and really mimic that in-person experience of a really large lecture hall. Having that co-host available to help you manage all those things, with hopefully a TA available or a moderator available to seek out those raising hands for questions or something of the like. Leveraging the chat feature, if you're making that available in your meeting to get feedback and questions in chat as well. We've also had people use kind of third-party applications. I know there are better ones out there, but even like a running Google Doc that people could update with questions and have that kind of real-time flow that we're working on managing with that collaboration effort that I just talked about, but using kind of some of those third-party tools and having a moderator there. I think it takes a village to run some of these really large sessions. Aside from that, some of the more advanced features, if you will, we haven't talked about polling yet, but that's a big one. Being able to come up with poll questions and get that feedback and engagement. But that high flex or hybrid model that people are leveraging, I think, is a big one as well, and that's more necessitated, by the situation in the space rather than maybe the size. But recording everything and making it available in various ways, whether it's through Canvas or through, I think you're using maybe MediaSite for your lecture captures, or even I've had some stream to YouTube or specific streaming sites as we are today, to be able to really engage that audience in a different way, as students are creative in how they like to learn, but maybe also how they are consuming content in this interesting time period that we're in.
Okay, so you deal with a lot of different institutions, higher education institutions. Have you seen any innovative behavior or any innovations from some of those other universities when it comes to these larger courses and getting all these students and keeping them engaged?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same questions and methods that people are using. I mentioned kind of that hybrid or high flex model that people are leveraging for various reasons, whether it's just social distancing, the number of people enrolled in the course, or whatever the case may be. So really trying to have an equitable share in the meeting. So if people are joining in person, and that's an option in your class or on your campus, having the people in person sitting at a desk or a table actually join the meeting virtually, so they still see the same thing that you and I are just displaying here today, where the camera is on us. If a student wants to see us, or we're talking in the meeting, being able to see that person as they would if they were at home. A few other things that I've seen kind of on the same front. I did have one school create a virtual background generator. So one piece of feedback we got from a few institutions was, you can probably see my name in the bottom left corner there. Wanting to make that more prevalent in the meeting, with everybody potentially dispersed, being able to quickly identify who's talking. And they actually came up with an option to have a university background, and you can actually input your name and have it displayed in a prevalent manner behind the screen, to help with that engagement, to know who is speaking, who to direct your questions to really be able to get your message out and have it attributed to you, really. So that was definitely an interesting one. Aside from, I don't want to keep talking about the same features over and over with breakout rooms and polling and such, but those are the big ones as well. But people are getting very creative out there, using the whiteboard and third-party tools for annotation to draw attention, allowing specific students to do that as well, if it makes sense, and allowing them to present and doing those kind of presentations that they may do in person, and leveraging them for that.
Okay. So we have a handful of faculty that didn't do the trial by fire a few months ago with teaching in Zoom. And some of them have asked, okay, it's their first time. What suggestions would you have for them, again, with gearing it towards engagement and collaboration with their students? So they're going to be teaching with Zoom for the first time this semester.
Yeah, I think it's great to have a firm foundation in the product and in the platform. So we get a lot of feedback that, Zoom, it just works, it's easy, but that's all relative. Everybody's exposure is different, to computers, to software, to video conferencing. So I think really starting with the basics and mastering those is really key. If you can't do that, it's going to be really hard to go that next level and really get that buy-in from your students and everybody else associated with your meeting or class. So those basics would include, managing audio appropriately, knowing when to mute and unmute, knowing how to mute and unmute others as needed. Managing, the waiting room, if you're leveraging that to determine who can be in the meeting, as if you have people joining or in the course that aren't supposed to be there, that can affect, the general premise of the meeting or class and engagement as well. Screen sharing, allowing yourself to understand screen sharing and how to manage others' ability to screen share. So if you want to get buy-in and engagement from other people in the session, allowing them to share content, annotation, using those tools, whether it's our built-in annotations, dragging your mouse around, or if you have a third-party tool that I know a lot of people like to use for more kind of complex and more control as well. So those would be the big ones, and then go on to some of the others with the breakout rooms and managing those. You have the ability to pre-populate those options and kind of a variety of other features. Don't be scared to spin up a meeting with a friend or colleague or a family member and just kind of kick tires on different features and dig around on different options. And the last thing I will say is, from a hardware perspective, you may or may not be in control of what you're actually using from a camera or computer perspective. But if you can, having an audio device like a headset always works best, whether it's the headphones that came with your phone or some other device. That's always a lot of times better than not having anything at all. Because if you boil it down, if you can't be heard in the meeting or class, it's not going to be fruitful for anybody involved. So that would be kind of the most baseline thing to do there.
Okay. And just to follow up real quick, just recently was in a conversation with some faculty who made a really great suggestion for those who are going to be teaching in a classroom, but also having people who are watching via Zoom, is to, instead of on the screen sharing, instead of sharing the application, go ahead and share your screen. That way, if you switch from whatever application you're showing to something else, you don't lose those students that are remote. You don't lose them because they're not following. They're thinking you're talking about something, yet the screen has something completely different on it. So just something I wanted to throw in there from a recent conversation with faculty member.
Yeah, Kyle, that is a great point, and yeah, definitely something to consider. And that's one of the basics. Obviously, sharing content and having that visual appeal instead of being able to show that in an in-person setting. Building on that a little bit with screen sharing, we do have the ability to do the full desktop share or specific application. You can even share a video over Zoom as well and have the audio come across and have a full screen video as well. So if you got a video clip to get engagement, to get people talking or excited, or just kind of an icebreaker or something to wake people up after a break to get them thinking again, that's an option as well within the sharing settings.
Okay. Well, we've got one final question here, and this one is in relation to our integration with Canvas. We will be moving to Canvas. So, are there any features that you particularly like or enjoy as with regards to Zoom's integration with Canvas?
Yeah, first I'll say Canvas is the LMS I hear the most about these days. So I think you made a good choice there in implementing Canvas. I think it's one of the more popular ones and robust ones out there. The experience from Zoom to Canvas, we actually integrate with a lot of different LMSs, as you can imagine. But there are some specific features with Canvas that are supported with that LMS that others are not. So for anybody who hasn't dove in too much, the integration with Zoom allows you to schedule and host meetings in a similar way that you would with your standard Zoom account, but actually nested in Canvas, so you don't have to kind of hop back and forth. So that's really key there. There's a Canvas calendar and actually conversations piece that is available in the calendar piece actually integrates back to the Zoom scheduling of the meeting. So it's going to add a meeting to the Canvas calendar if that's your calendar of choice or something you use to leverage in Canvas. So if you schedule a meeting, it's gonna put that on your calendar, similar to if you used our Outlook integration outside of Canvas. So that's something we get a lot of good feedback on if people are leveraging that. And then the conversations piece as well. So when a meeting or class is scheduled, or there are edits or changes to it, it actually can be informative with the conversations piece if that's being leveraged. I checked and I did see that enabled. I don't know if folks are using that, but it is something to essentially keep people up to date when a meeting or class is scheduled there. Last but not least, I know attendance reports are always key, especially with people learning virtually. We do have an option available, and I did see was enabled to display attendance reports as well through Canvas. So really pulling from the Zoom side, and we take obviously a roster of people coming and going. That's a standard reporting mechanism we do have for our meetings. That can be brought into Canvas as well and display those attendance reports. So if you do need to leverage those in any way, they should be there quite easily. You can't always get them through the Zoom interface as well, but that's another option that I like. Aside from that, all the same features and functionality that we talked about today, everything that you can leverage on Zoom is available in Canvas. It's just a great conduit for obviously your standard use cases, but also with Zoom as well. So it's really kind of bringing the best of both worlds there.
Great. Thank you so much, you both. And Kyle, I'm going to put you on the spot as you have a captive audience and being our TAMU Zoom administrator. Is there anything that you've seen over the last couple of months, just anything that struck you since you've been managing our Zoom account for, say, the last 18 months, kind of what you're seeing today and where we've come and really where we're headed? I mean, I think you point to a lot of the innovations because you talk to so many different faculty who are trying to overcome certain challenges. So oftentimes the innovations that we learn in AI come from you.
Yeah. So from what I've just encountered, especially, going back 18 months when we first deployed this, the people are a lot more comfortable with it. They're a lot more quick to jump into it. They've explored a lot more, and they're able to pick up on things that I've never even used. And, again, I'm the administrator of it, and there's some features that they'll mention, and I'll think, oh, I need to look into that because I didn't know that was possible. I know one quick thing that came up recently in other conversations is we do have that security update that's coming up that's going to change in September, which is going to force you to either use the passcode or the waiting rooms. We've shared quite a bit about that. Dr. Widmer, your office has got lots of great information for them on that, but there seemed to be a lot of trepidation about that. And so just want to ease concerns. We can make that as smooth as possible. It's pretty straightforward. Using the passcode's easy because then it could be put in the link. But the biggest thing that we really need to do is to have people using just the TAMU.EDU login. And that way we don't have a situation where you have a student that comes in or a student who comes in and is not supposed to be there. Well, we can't tell you who that is unless they've logged in. We can't, it really diminishes our ability to find out who that individual is and discuss, okay, you don't need to do this with them. So, with the security, all those, the passcodes, those are great, but definitely use the authenticated only, authenticated users only can join.
That's great advice. Thank you. And as we transition into the new school year, we're going to start a campaign around some of these changes that need to take effect by September 27th. So that's some great advice that you added that we will certainly include in the messaging. And Matt, to your point, I think your kind of just fundamental message to anybody about managing the meeting and then scaling from that, we've got a ton of great resources that we've adapted from resources that you've shared with us through Zoom on the Keep Teaching site under the Teaching Technologies section. And there's a Getting Started with Zoom section, as well as a Teaching with Zoom section, which speaks a little bit more to that classroom management piece. So all of that content's out there, and we continue to update it. It sounds like we've got a lot of updates to make with the August 4th update to the client. And then the other point you made was really reinforced by leadership at Arizona State and University of Central Florida, this idea of having students who will be attending face-to-face classes to attend the meeting virtually as well, so that everybody's sharing in that virtual experience. So excited to hear how faculty have experience with that and what innovations come from everybody having that equitable access to the virtual classroom. So with that, we will wrap things up. Thank you so much, Matt and Kyle. We've had several partners in the event: the Center for Teaching Excellence, Disability Resources, Provost Communications, Provost IT Office, TTVN, who has live streamed and then processed all of these recordings for us so quickly, Canvas as well as LinkedIn Learning, and have had a tremendous showing from Zoom as well in this Big Splash event. A huge thanks to our LMS advisory committees members who continue to support us, challenge us, and give us great ideas as we implement Canvas over the next year. We sent out a survey yesterday in the email that went out announcing today, and then we also sent the survey link out last week. And if you need the survey link, let us know. We'll also post it on the Big Splash website, but we would really love some feedback so we continue to offer some of these types of programs and as well as resources in the future. Just thank you to everybody. We've had great participation given this moment in time in which we're trying to host this event. So we've had great turnout and also good feedback on those who have accessed the recordings. We already have them up on the Big Splash webpage from last week. So almost every recording minus Matt's today should be available both on the Big Splash website. Under each speaker, you can just click the screen, as well as on our Academic Innovation YouTube channel. So with that, we will sign off, and thank you again to you both.